All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, we're in the midst of what could be a historic college football season for the Pac 12, but the battle on the gridiron pales in comparison to the legal battle over the Conference of Champions between Oregon State, Washington State, and the departing schools. Now, Oregon State and Washington State contend that the departing schools should no longer, have a say in the matters regarding to the Pac-12. Now, Washington is attempting to dismiss that lawsuit on behalf of the other departing nine schools as it's a battle for money because Washington is basically saying, hey, listen, we're still a part of this league, as are the other nine schools. Washington State and Oregon State are basically contending and saying, hey, listen, you guys gave your notice that you're leaving, so you should no longer have a say in what goes on in the Pac 12. And obviously, this is a battle for money because the departing schools want their share of what they feel is their share of the money that is still left on the table for the Pac 12, while Oregon State and Washington State are saying absolutely not. And regardless of what side of this that you're on, I think that this has the makings of getting much worse before it gets better. And if it is not settled amicably, and I don't think that is going to happen, rather, then we might see some dirty laundry being aired. And I say that because there are those who have been skeptical about the fashion in which the 10 schools have decided to leave the Pac 12. And there are some that feel that the networks were involved in this and there was also tampering. And I feel, in my opinion alone, that the longer that this drags out, there could be some more dirty information, becoming public, which is not going to look good for a lot of people. And like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, I think if that were to be the case, I think that the schools that are willing to leave the Pac-12, they need to just sit back and cut bait and call it a day and keep on moving. But obviously, they want what they feel is their share of the revenue. Washington State and Oregon State, they basically want to use that possibly to buy their way into being a Power Five league. I don't know. We got to wait and see, what's going to come of that. I mean, there's a lot that hinges on this. I mean, you're hearing rumors about Washington State and Oregon State basically uh, merging the Mountain West into the Pac-2 or Pac-12, whatever you want to call it. Taking some teams from the Mountain West, taking teams from the American. I don't know. All of it's rumors. We've got to sit back and wait and see. Uh, but nonetheless, I think this has the makings of getting a lot worse before it gets better. And I mean, you look at it, and I've talked about this before. Washington State and Oregon State were basically left behind. Okay. And they're probably sitting back and seeing what happened to the likes of SMU and Rice. And, obviously the younger generation doesn't understand, what big of a deal that the Southwest Conference was once upon a time. And when the Southwest Conference folded in the mid 90s, Texas, Texas Tech, Baylor, and Texas A&M, they went to the Big 12. They were fine. They were taken care of. Arkansas had already left. They were in the SEC, but Rice, SMU, TCU, and Houston, they were left behind. And you look at TCU, you look how much they bounced around from Conference USA to the Mountain West. I think at one point they were even in the WAC. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but it took them some time before they got to the Big 12. You look at what Houston had to do to get to the Big 12, and it basically took Texas leaving the Big 12 for Houston to get in there. And SMU just got back to a Power Five conference in the ACC, albeit very strange, but nonetheless, they're there. And of course, Rice, most people, have just forgotten about Rice. And Oregon State and Washington State, obviously, they don't want that fate. And if you're out there and you're cheering for the underdog, obviously right now you are cheering for Washington State and Oregon State. Again, like I said, this is going to be a battle. And I talked about it before, when the Pac-12 was on the verge of folding. I felt like at that point, Stanford, Cal, Washington State, and Oregon State should get together and just merge with the Mountain West. Obviously, Stanford was looking at it from the money standpoint for their Olympic sports that they have, Cal as well. And they decided to join the ACC. We got to wait and see how that's going to work. And I've talked about it before, and I'll continue to say it. I think an Oregon State, Washington State merger with the Mountain West could work because you're going to give kids on the West Coast an opportunity to stay in the West Coast, not just for football, but other sports. The kids who don't feel like, traveling around the country to participate in varsity sports. That's going to be an outlet for them. Um, but on the flip side, would it be enough for the new Pac-12 if that were to be the case to still be considered a Power Five? I'm not sure. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I mean, the thing is like Wazoo and Oregon State, they're not traditional football powers, but they can bring it. Okay, San Diego State is a reputable school. You got Fresno State, as well. You got Boise. You got a good Wyoming and Air Force teams. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Could it be? We got to wait. We got to sit back and wait and see. But all of that, hinges on what happens here with the Pac-12. And I think, it was a shrewd move by Washington State and Oregon State, obviously to file their paperwork, basically in Pullman, Washington. Washington is representing the other nine schools because of that. But I think this is going to be a back and forth right here, legally, a la Ali and Frazier, of course, in the boxing ring. But nonetheless, I think this is going to be a battle. Um, Obviously, the departing 10 schools wanted to be done quickly. I think Oregon State and Washington State, they're going to try to go the distance on this, and they're not going to go away quietly. I think, obviously collectively, when you put all 10 schools together, you got Goliath. And of course, you got Washington State and Oregon State, you got David. So, obviously, stories are that David did beat Goliath. And now we're going to see what happens here legally between Oregon State, Wazoo, and the departing schools from the Pac-12. It's like I said before, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But let's see what comes of it. Also, let's see if there's any more information that comes out publicly about the departures of these respective schools. I mean, part of it, like basically it came out when USC and UCLA decided to leave the Pac-12, and the same thing can be said for the likes of Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 for the SEC. You sit back if you're a powerhouse in college football, and you see a Northwestern, you see a Rutgers, get a big payday from the Big Ten. You see the Vanderbilts, of the world get a big payday from the SEC, and it's just because of the conference that they're in. That's all it comes down to. I've talked about it before, and I'll continue to say it. This is what happens when you don't have revenue sharing at the collegiate level like you do at the pro level. But unlike the pro level, good luck getting more than 130 athletic directors on the same page as far as sharing revenue equally. It ain't going to happen. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But let's see what happens with this battle between Oregon State and Washington State as they're trying to cling on to the Pac-12, as they're trying to fight on against their departing brethren. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Now, I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.